Hello. I feel fine. Yeah, I'm just touch on the drowsy side. Um, there was a thing in Sherlock Holmes I kind of wanted to talk about. The saying goes something to the effect, and so all of life is one great chain, the nature of which is seen. Anytime we see a single link, anytime we observe a single link, something like that. Right. And as much as I think extrapolation is a very useful tool, um, very good tool to have in your arsenal, I feel like some people heard that and they took it way too seriously. Like you do realize it was a story, right? Um, it's one of those things where like again, I think like indirect reasoning, deductive reasoning, and stuff like that. You can do a lot. You can do a lot with extrapolation, but I don't think it's this silver bullet catch-all tool that people sometimes think it is. Um, yeah, it's a story. It's a story. If it were true that extrapolation were all there was to knowing things, then I would understand women, which I don't. Ah, ah, ah. We have fun here. Um, Moving on, we have some stuff to look at. So, video by Abba and Preach. Concerning the late Jason Arde, who was, for those of you who don't know, I'll do a quick rundown, was previously I think the youngest Cambridge professor to date, the youngest black Cambridge professor to date to ever hold that post, right? Remarked upon and remarkable for it, as well as being purportedly nonverbal until 11, non-literate until 18, and autistic, and I suppose, yeah. Point being, there was a lot of people, it was kind of a feel-good story, and a lot of people covered it because of that. He was quite singled out as being held up and kind of special, virtuous, etc., hurrah, because of that. More recently, there's kind of been, you'll hopefully see, it's not that cut and dried. There's a lot of there's a lot of contradicting narratives and or facts about the case that seem to indicate he's more of a fanciful tale teller. Um, but we'll get into it in any case. I just want to point out I'm watching two black guys cover this, so you know it's going to be fair and even-handed because I'm not racist. No, I just to clarify also, I have pre-watched this. I had tried doing recordings prior to this, and by hook or by crook, yeah. And any, you don't need to know about that. Just clarifying the whole pre-watch thing.
This story involves Cambridge.
Give me a second.
Cambridge's youngest professor.
Black professor. Am I being racist here or like prejudice here? I'm just looking at this. Is this what you would call like a florid face or something? My immediate knee-jerk response is this is someone who takes drugs or abuses drugs. It looks unwell, just on principle. To be fair, there are some photos or videos where he looks okay. There are some where he looks kind of haunting, like very unhealthy.
A man named Jason Arde. All right. If you guys need a little introduction, who overcame being a nonverbal
Did you guys? You guys can maybe answer in the comment section if you want. Did you guys hear about this guy back in the day when he was kind of being touted as this up and coming whatever the crap? Because I don't think I'd ever heard about this guy before. It wasn't until just prior. I'd mentioned late Jason Arde. That's maybe part I should have mentioned. He is assumed to have committed suicide. I don't know. I haven't been keeping like really close track of this, but I don't think the police have corroborated that or said that's what happened. I believe they said that his death was unexpected, but they did not suspect foul play. So, make what assumptions you like from that.
autistic child until 11, and then he was illiterate until 18. but he managed to get his GCSEs, which is, basically some academic stuff you got to do in high school. He honed his focus as a gifted young snooker.
Snooker shark. For those of you who don't know, snooker is British version of pool, or perhaps pool is the American version of snooker. Do they have pool over there? I don't think it's the same game. I think there would be some different rules, but it's kind of similar, I think.
Player, and his discipline as a footballer, good enough to compete at a
That's footballer.
serious semi-pro level, who carried the Olympic torch for London in 2012 after running 30 marathons in 35 days for charity, who went on to run hundreds of miles across the country and raised 5.5 million pounds for charity. Okay, if you don't know, 5.5 million pounds, British
heavy.
pounds, that's heavy, but it's also...
Dad joke. I don't know if he's dead or not, but that was a dad joke.
You're so stupid, you know that?
I'll go in time out.
You're so stupid. He survived a devastating car crash in his teens that left him comatose and on life support, yet he awoke against all odds, learned to walk and talk again. He then beat cancer.
You'll see that either God loves him or hates him, given all the weird stuff that happens to him, given all the astonishing things that have occurred, which strings the limits of credulity. He seems to be either blessed or cursed, because there's a lot of weird stuff happening to him.
And refused to even let brain surgery derail him from relearning
A lot of abnormalities.
an entire doctoral thesis in time. He managed to pass it. He met cruelty with grace by asking a judge to spare the young people.
Please tell me these were not his words. All right, okay. Yeah, it just feels like to describe yourself as meeting cruelty with grace seems a little bit over the top. Yeah. One asked to be the godfather of his child. It feels like one of those things where, and everyone clapped.
Who had attacked him, and later welcomed two of them as his own students, with one of them having Jason
Small world.
be the godparent to his child.
That's too much. That's too much. That's too much.
Against all odds,
Sorry. Here we go.
against all odds, he rose to become the youngest black professor in the history of University of Cambridge and a tireless advocate for students who saw themselves as lesser than because they were different. That is who Jason Arde is. And he's also a pathological liar and a plagiarist. Came out this week that the youngest professor from University of Cambridge is a
I mistimed my gasp, my astonished gasp.
total and complete fucking fraud. And the lies are insane.
Couldn't speak and I couldn't converse in a way that everyone else could because it allowed me to see things in a different way.
Therapists predicted he would need full-time assistance.
Here's a question. Does this look goofy to you? I think it's a chimney or something. Well, this is a chimney. Is that also a chimney? It looks strange. Like it doesn't really jive with the rest of it, seemingly.
Throughout his life, how wrong they were.
You okay?
It was this man, college tutor
Obviously French.
Sandro Sandri,
Degenerates.
who helped teach Jason to read and write at 18.
Blame it on the rain.
His most prestigious universities.
Milli Vanilli? 100%.
Someone in the chat said the same thing.
Yeah. There's so many meme pictures. I was
I'm assuming that's like an artist or something.
going to post them afterwards, but 100%. He does look like that.
Professor Jason Arde was Cambridge's youngest ever black professor when he joined in 2023. But he's been caught up in a row after allegations of plagiarism, which is essentially when someone steals someone else's work, and questions over some of his stated achievements, such as his marathon claims. He insisted he isn't a liar and that he's faced an unrelenting level of public scrutiny and personal attack.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like it feels like people, they want all the good and none of the bad. They want to have the cake and eat it too, or, have their cake and not eat the carrots. But like it feels like if you were the object of immeasurable public praise, that goes the other way too. Like, you don't get to pick and choose. You know, if you want to be consistent, you would also try to avoid the public praise as well.
He said,
I want to point out, I think if he had avoided becoming a public figure, if he had foregone some of the publicity, his downfall would have been much less publicized. I think most people could probably count on one hand the number of professors that they actually know the names of. There are very few who were like celebrity status things, like maybe Richard Dawkins or Jordan Peterson or stuff like that. But overwhelmingly, we don't know who these people are. It would not have been a thing. It would have maybe been a minor thing amongst people who were really into DEI stuff, or people who are in academic circles that, oh yeah, this young black professor got caught on plagiarism or whatever the crap. But the fact that he allowed himself to be put forward as the picture of black excellence and the picture of autistic, diverse, non-neurotypical, whatever the crap, to be held up, to be put on a pedestal, the fact that he allowed that is why the backlash, the people preying on his downfall, had such success in their endeavors, or why it was so popular, why it had that mass appeal, this story of his downfall. So, yeah.
some errors in his early academic work were because of his autism, and he also told
Nice.
the Times there had been a coordinated
That's what I would say.
campaign to unseat him, which he argued was racially motivated. The allegations came from another academic, Nathan Kofnes, who was
Kofnes, that's how it's pronounced. He said Confas. This guy said Confas, and the other. For the record, we're looking at two videos, these guys. This is the one prior to Jason Arday's death. The next one is post Jason Arday's death.
sacked from his Cambridge role in 2024 after a backlash to his views on black people. Last night, Cambridge University said it had launched a probe.
Yeah, that guy's a race realist. This comes up later, but I believe he mentioned something to the effect that if we were in a true meritocracy, there would be almost no blacks in academia. They would be relegated to either entertainment or athletics. To be fair, you probably would say the inverse, that there would be no white people in athletics. Although, it's kind of weird the way that works. I'm thinking heavy lifting is maybe white people holding the records. Bicycling, also probably white people. I think swimming as well. Sorry, I'm not going to mention any stereotypes about that, but there are such stereotypes. I think running, generally speaking, is mostly black people. I don't know about jumping or pole vaulting or anything like that. But it's kind of like black people just in general would be disproportionately represented in that category. Like, given how few of them there are, like, it feels like there should, in theory, be less, but they seem to be disproportionately athletically gifted. Although technically, like, especially like Olympics, that's on a global stage, so much less a minority. But like, if you're thinking just like locally in America, I'm gonna guess even then you would maybe be disproportionately represented in athletic type stuff.
Into Professor Ardey.
No, he's convincing me. I'm now a racist. Race realist, that is.
Okay, so you're going to see some of the coverage, all right?
No.
And this goes really far. We're talking about institutional failures. We're talking about police involvement. We're talking about, some people have their narratives with DEI, a lot of different things. But I think at the core of it, the question remains, is this man a total fraud? I think there's, without a doubt, incidents of plagiarism. I think there's, without a doubt, incidents when it comes to...
I guess I wouldn't say maybe necessarily a total fraud. I think, officially speaking, his PhD is upheld at this point in time. But his character is none of the highest. His moral fiber is found wanting, perhaps.
Stealing other people's research and then attributing...
He's a liar, that's what I'm saying. That seems to be pretty certain.
It to himself. I think there's, without a doubt, a plethora of lies that he told. And the way you know that...
Plethora, nice. Plethora. I would say plethora, but it's a good word anyways.
This happened. Comes down to a book he wrote. Well, the problem is that there's a book that he wrote that was going to be released by a publisher. They had a draft and the final version of the memoir, autobiography. The issue is that people got access to the draft, and the draft looks very, very different than the final version that he ended up releasing. Supposedly, there's a
J'accuse.
story that when he was a teenager, he got in a
Was that better?
car crash, okay? And when he was in a car crash, he was comatose, right? But he said he was suffering from locked-in syndrome. Do you know what that is?
It's when I think it's when you're trapped in your body, basically.
Your condition where a person is fully awake and aware. See, I've had that when I wake up, like immediately after I wake up for a little bit afterwards. It like takes a little bit for my muscles to kick in or something. Like somehow your brain hasn't deactivated whatever the crap it does to paralyze your muscles during sleep. But I think this would maybe be something different. Speaking of which, is it normal to have nightmares about being stuck back in school? Because I had one just recently. I think I used to have them semi-regular. Well, I'd say semi-regular. How often, I don't know. But I would used to have nightmares about being stuck in school, and I had one again recently. And I'm not for sure if that's supposed to be a normal thing or not.
Like you're aware, but you're
Correct.
You're you can't. You're locked in.
100 points to you, Preach. Take your 5 million pounds, fat ass.
To be fair, he brought up the weight thing.
So,
Your AI model looks right, but the details still feel off. Wrong dimensions, lost details, unstable structures. High 3D model 3.0.
Was that fatphobic Osworth?
I don't know, bro.
I don't know who Osworth is.
I don't know what that was. I just wanted to. He's apparently locked into his body. The doctors are talking about ending his life because he's suffering from this car accident. But he's aware the
Just want to point out, like, he sticks his hand in his armpit or something. That's some sort of self-soothing thing. Probably something I would do.
whole time.
I'm thinking I do that sometimes.
Mind you, this man is in his teens going through this aware, comatose car accident. This is in the draft. He manages to recover from this and relearn how to walk and speak.
A second time.
Yes. Now, this is in the draft. It was completely omitted from the final version. This is an autobiography. One of the most traumatic events in his life. Should have plenty of documentation. People started asking questions, they cut it. There's no records of this. There's no media posts. He never even referenced this. So the whole time he's talking about his childhood and what he had to do and what he had to...
See, that's pretty significant to cut out, right? Like, did you just decide that it's, like, what, not important enough to communicate? Like, you'd expect some level of difference between the draft and the final product, the final iteration on it. But, like, hey. It's not good.
learn, he never references his car crash where he supposedly was going to get killed by the doctors. So, big red flag already, okay? He claims in the book that he had testicular cancer. By the final draft,
No balls.
brain cancer. So,
I mean, a ball is
so
a
the
ball.
testicular cancer was gone.
I mean, technically,
He tells a funny joke, but, you know, you guys can watch it if you feel like.
Allegedly,
A little bit off color.
so this cancer that was in his balls got to his brain, but the balls thing no longer happened, so they changed it for the final one.
I mean,
and
what?
this affected his memory, so he forgot his dissertation. Zero mention of this anywhere else other than this memoir, okay? No record of this anywhere. I want y'all to see this. So this is one of the oddest claims he made. This is before the book, okay? This is back in the day.
I was part of
Or
a
the autistic... Sorry, that doesn't even make sense. Stupid. The autistic claim he made. One of the most autistic...
program actually, which it doesn't really exist anymore, but it was called 7-Up at the time. And 7-Up is basically when they follow you over the...
Like, there are some things where he looks normal. This is not one of them. He looks weird again here. Maybe it's the lighting. Maybe it's the camera lens. I don't know.
duration of your
It
life.
looks unhealthy.
So they follow you at kind of 7, 14, 21. And I was pulled out of the project when I was 14.
Bit of a problem with that.
the program was called Sprite. I'll be in the corner.
Damn.
Preach with the clever puns. You know, I'm over here like reading out this story like, ba-doom-ts. So the problem, here it is, Priest, from over there, you can stay there. He was never part of the show. I looked up if there's any episodes, Whatever it is, nowhere. Again, I don't know why he felt the need to lie about that, but he did. He claimed he was part of the show. So apparently he did 400 miles in 4 days, 600 miles in 6, and then 12 in 12 days. So he...
Again, this is all the same dude. This is all happening to the same guy.
He was saying that he did, 30 marathons in 35 days with a partially broken leg.
No.
Same guy.
No.
Like,
Bitch, I can't even run to the store. Fucking me 600 miles in 6 days.
You'd have to walk 31 hours minimum to walk 100 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And this was like a prospect in which he would basically run for charities. When people looked into it, they found no records of any of these donations that he supposedly made. And then they questioned, like, how did you do 30 marathons in 35 days? Like, you would be like a top-tier, top-level athlete. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy.
Because 30 marathons...
I don't know what the records are with regards to that stuff, but it does seem very impressive. Just like with regards to, presuming this is all sequential, like happening in sequence, like just the fact that your body would be repairing itself from this stuff, like that would be, I don't know what sort of state you would be in at the end of that type of thing.
Or dead.
He claimed that people looked into it. None of the donations ever happened to any of the charities that he was claiming. And when he was pressed about it, he said there were 100 plus other that were involved, and NDAs barred him from naming the
NDAs for a charity. Does that happen? Is that a thing?
charities that he supposedly helped. Then he said he was a semi-professional footballer. Now, semi-professional...
I can imagine if you were in like some sort of third world like country where like they didn't want people knowing, or if it was some sort of like activism type stuff where like it's very hostile territory, maybe you have NDAs or something, but like running for a charity,
an academy player means something. So people looked into it, and the dude played in tier 8. A few matches, tier 8.
I don't know what that is. I'm pretty sure, like, I'm assuming the higher tiers or the better tiers would be lower numbers. The lowest tier with any semi-professional player would be tier 6. Okay.
But then we move on to the next claim, and this is the big one, which is that he was nonverbal to 11, and then he learned to read and write at 18. The issue was that he passed a couple GCSEs when he was 16, which are academic tests that you have to do as part of like passing.
I don't know if I've ever done that.
Through high school.
We've done some stuff.
So they're like, if you couldn't read and write until you were 18, how did you pass these at 16? There hasn't been a proper explanation for how any of this happened. And then another issue came out with people that supposedly went with him to school when he was a young brethren, said that this dude was speaking the whole time.
This is funny. This is funny, man.
See, here's a question. Maybe this is just me being proved racist by the racist prover. Call back to the community now. Is this guy Jamaican, or is it some sort of trashy English accent? I'm not sure which is, like, somehow I'm thinking Jamaican, but I like some of the lilt to some of the speech just makes me think it's some sort of weird English thing.
Was a mute the whole time.
See, like, I think what was throwing me was Jason already had mentioned a witch doctor from somewhere and some sort of weird thing where he was being born and whatnot. I don't know exactly where Jason Artie was born. Like, if he was born in England and raised there, or if he was born somewhere else. And
knew him. So what are you telling me? I had no conversations. None. I just read through the thing. I saw him. I laughed. When I saw the dreads and all of that, I laughed. Because that was a joke to me. I remember him with the little baby dread. Yeah? But when I saw it, and then I saw the little write-up, a man tried to say he was, whether it's non-verbal, mute, whatever you don't want to call it, the brother was chatting. The brother was chatting, yeah, all the time. And I didn't just go school with him. I went Sunday school with him as well. And you know, if you go Sunday school, you get to go to the clubs, the Tuesday or the Thursday. In the week after school, you go club, you know, play a little ping pong, kickball, the tuck shop was there, all of that. Them man were there, yeah? Listen, them man were there, and we would jump.
I just want to point out, this is just one dude talking about another dude. So it's kind of a he said type scenario. But given all of the stuff that has come out about Jason Artie, I think he is probably the least reliable narrator in the room. So I don't know about this guy's validity of his testimony or something. I don't think it's nothing, but it like, again, I feel like Jason Artie is the one who's maybe to be the most suspect in these scenarios.
In the same van to travel down to Sunday school, yeah? That man will be in the van with my brethren Nibs, you know, talking about my baby all gone. And then Jason be on the back end, you make it all gone. Look.
So he was saying they were all singing and talking and yapping it up. And then a couple other people from the school that he went to said that this dude was talking his whole life. Okay?
Jason. Let me tell you, Jason, I know your name because your partner Debbie here has told us all about you. Okay.
So he's on a TV program with his partner, and she's about to speak for him. That's him.
Debbie, what did you tell us?
Basically, that Jason's just an amazing guy. He has epilepsy. He learned how to speak when he was 11.
Epilepsy. Again, all the same guy. Just pointing that out. This is all happening to the same guy. In theory, it's maybe possible. It just seems extremely unlikely. I don't know if it's possible.
And he couldn't read or write until he was 16. He found school quite challenging and quite tough, but he always was so grateful to the people that helped him along the way. So he decided to give back, and he has dedicated the past 10 years to fundraising for people who are in need. And so this has been alongside sort of going to college, going to uni, getting
She seems nice.
a master's, becoming a uni lecturer.
He or she now claims that he couldn't, he learned to read and write at 16, not 18, but every time he does interviews, he says 18. So there's been a lot of conflicting reports about the whole age. People seem very confused. Some people say he could speak the whole time. Some people say it's this age, that age. And look, it's a very inspiring story to imagine you cannot speak.
Completely unrelated. This guy almost seems like he has no eyebrows. He has prodigious. Oh, I say prodigious. He has not bad eyebrows. This guy, I don't know. I don't know if Abba has. Abba, you've got no eyebrows.
You cannot read. You can still assimilate information, but you're nonverbal, and then all of a sudden you speak. You're, a crazy, overperforming academic who goes on to get a PhD, youngest black professor. Like, it is a fairy tale story. The problem is when everyone looks into the details of the fairy tale, everything starts falling apart. There's no proof.
That's kind of the nature of a fairy tale. It's one of those things where, like, when you imagine things, it feels like one of the things your imagination does is it will alternatively hyperbolize certain parts of reality and minimize or eliminate other things. It can skip parts of reality. That's why your dreams, in my mind, that's why your dreams don't make sense. There's no inertia to thought. It's not like it has to make sense. It's just your brain playing with itself, right? You can be riding a bike over here 1 second and then be on a jet ski somewhere else the next. Like, there's no intervening space, really. Point being, I think in the case of, like, I don't know if there's a way to really bridge the gap between, okay, a memory that I'm experienced and am now communicating to you versus a story that I have to make up. I would have to try and conceptualize it in such a fashion that it operates in accordance with, laws of physics or whatever. But I feel like it's one of those scenarios where there might never really be like a real substitute for authenticity. There's always going to be little bits and baubles that you miss, I tend to think.
For any of the details. And then the memoirs, very odd that he left out a lot of the stories, or they dumbed down many of the claims that were originally there. I feel bad. This is what I feel bad for. This is from a year ago. Jason Artie, a child that couldn't speak until he was 11. I found Jason Artie's story. They say he was nonverbal autism. He spoke his first word at 11. He started writing at 18, and he's now a university professor. Does anyone have more information about this story? I desperately hope it's true. I'm used to the fact that many stories.
That's the thing, like, you tend to think of cruelty in terms of doing something that hurts people, but, like, giving people false hope is almost more dastardly in my mind. Getting them to dedicate their lives to something that's hopeless or something like that. Like, and I'm not saying it is hopeless for people like this, but, like, this kind of misrepresentation or this, I don't know, him presenting himself as this person who started as such and such and has become such and such, that feels like it's particularly bad. Again, hopefully there is hope for these types of people, that they can, strive for that. And there would maybe be people who'd even say, okay, whatever Jason Arde did, maybe you should even try to preserve the lie or whatever, so it gives people hope that they can become better or whatever, and not excuse mediocrity in their lives. And I think that's a good thing for people not to give up, to keep striving to be better. But as far as hauling water for a shyster of the highest order, no. You have to live in reality to some extent. You have to reconcile yourself to it.
Stories about children who started speaking late are only half true.
And I don't think this type of thing it's not like Santa. I don't know. It just feels like, I would not say you should preserve the lie in order to help people.
Damn, that was a year ago before all this unfolded. I feel for her. My son is 5-year-old. He's never spoken a single word. I'd love to know if Jason and this is like the harm from some of this stuff. It's like the people who are living with this, who are looking at this dude as like a beacon of hope, and then he gets exposed for how fraudulent he is. He hurts them. He hurts their prospects. He hurts the perception of people who suffer from this condition. He hurts the hiring practices that people have in regards to these people. Because now folks are going to question, why was he there? Was it the color of his skin? Was it this or that? And unfortunately, in this situation, this does seem like one of those ones where it's like, hey, politically this is expedient. Black Lives Matter, let's do it. And
yeah, and that's as much as I disagree with the true believers, it feels like there's a more unsettling reality that some people are they take a more cynical view to DEI, where they don't even really want to do good stuff for a blank community. They just want to appear to do good stuff. And they'll take someone like Jason Arde, who is autistic, and purportedly autistic, neurodivergent, illiterate, until 11, this really feel-good young black guy, and say, hey, this is great. We'll make this guy the poster child for our inclusivity, because we want a shortcut to prove that how good we are and how inclusive we are. We want a shortcut to people's just adulation, or to get people off our back about this, maybe even. So we'll take this guy and use him as token black, neurodivergent, whatever the crap. Stick him in a position maybe he's not necessarily qualified for, or not look too hard at his credentials, whatever the crap. And I don't know.
You don't have to like the truth. You don't have to like the reality of what this guy did, how it might impact other folks. But you can't lie about the situation, thinking it's going to do good. I feel for this person who wrote this. This person was really looking for hope.
Oh, for hope and an answer.
And I
see if there was a
actually, this is the saddest part.
Did it?
And that's it's maybe not confirmed that he committed suicide, but to people like this who might believe that he was autistic or whatever the crap, I don't know, to end it like that feels very, if indeed that's how it did end, if he did commit suicide or something, that feels very selfish. It feels very selfish as in whatever, to people who are looking up to you to lead them with regards to this type of stuff.
Oh, that's actually fucking, that got to me.
Because that person is genuine right there. That person is really thinking about her son, oh, maybe there's...
Yeah. He had one where he said he almost attempted to take his life by a bridge, but then he heard an Eagles song and decided to get off and then live.
See, until he's now dead, if it was suicide, until then, I would have maybe been more dubious with regards to this story, but maybe, I don't know. It still seems a little bit weird that he heard a bird and then, so maybe this is still a weird one.
Ever wondered if you have what it takes to learn coding? And no, I don't mean physically attending a community college.
All you're doing is just adding all these fantastical things that were in the memoir that he ended up cutting out. Supposedly, some people who hated him left a pig's head at his place, a bullet, a banana, a corrosive poison, and the men were masked.
They were just giving him food. It just sounds like the weirdest collection.
Place, a bullet, a banana, a corrosive poison, and the men
bullet, a banana.
were masked. Metropolitan Police told the guard
The pig said that would... Don't they do pig gels or whatever? Isn't it like a thing you can cook a pig's head?
Regarding the details he gave were
Sounds delicious. Like at least the pig gel stuff. I don't know. Like the whole notion of eating something that I can recognize as a part of an animal, like a recognizable part of an animal, like besides drumsticks, maybe. I don't know if I like that idea.
Categorically incorrect, and no such investigation existed. He took no photos, told no one at the time, and had in fact filed a harassment complaint against a critic that police declined to pursue. So when he made this whole claim of like these pig heads and all this stuff, there was never a single photo produced. No CC. Like if you aren't aware, where they live at, CCTVs everywhere.
Everywhere.
They got cameras set up. It's like part of their system. It doesn't mean it catches everything, but none of the incidents that he's.
Well, and you would probably assume that something like Cambridge is pretty well, like as far as surveillance or surveillance systems would be pretty top of the line, I assume.
Claiming were ever caught on camera, not by himself or anyone else, which is odd, because if somebody left a fucking pig's head and I needed to document that shit, there would be evidence, right?
Call that place Little China. Right, they're making a false report like that to the police is...
I don't know what he means, but...
a crime in itself.
Yeah, but they're not charging for that.
No, they're not. They ain't got it.
Please not charging for that shit. Now, none of these are necessarily smoking guns per se. Some of them are very fucking odd. Some of them are... But let's get to the plagiarism. So people have been raising issues about this guy's an academic. This guy came into Cambridge, during, I think it was like the mid-2010s. And so some people said, some of it may have to do with BLM, all the other claims. Some people felt like it might have been a bit of a political hire, that they rushed it. We'll put that aside for now.
So, like, I assume... I've never read his thesis or anything like that. I assume there was some level of quality there. But I think had people been less eager to find him virtuous and or qualified, if people had been a little bit less eager to believe him, some of this stuff might have been caught. Possibly.
Goes to Cambridge, people start raising issue about his academic record. Why? Because he used lines from another person who had written a dissertation before him, but he didn't cite it. Now, in academic area, that's bad. Just is. People be like, all right, well, he didn't cite things properly, like it's bad, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay. The real issue is that he stole other people's research. So he ran a study on a group of individuals. I believe it was about how people are responsive to therapy and issues they have with.
This was kind of an intriguing one.
And then he started using quotes for one of his subjects that belonged to a study from somebody else.
So I think this is not in his PhD. This is in this is in some of his research that he was doing about whatever the crap.
And then he put it into his study. And so when people found that out, then they're like, you're just attributing quotes that don't exist for this person from other sites. Like, this doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And when people scrutinize...
See, that would be the question. Like, I think with regards to the plagiarism, they said the defense was incorrectly cited sources, right? In this case, I don't think you can use that defense. This is, in my mind, more damning than the actual plagiarism allegations, because he's taking quotes from a person in another person's study and attribute it to people in his own study. That's not good. That's not good. Anyways, you guys can check out the rest of this one if you like. We're moving on. This was a video they had done later after Jason already had, we're assuming, offed himself. No, I'm going to preach about this anyway, as that's the name of this one. So
I think this is a story that, does end very tragic. Jason Arde was a professor at Cambridge. He was touted as the youngest black professor in the history of the university. And he was under a media firestorm for allegations of plagiarism, as well as many fantastical stories.
Well, I think most people could agree. Most people who aren't most people who are sane would agree that it's always tragic when someone offs themselves. It's never ideal. But again, I tend to think he kind of put himself in a position to allow this type of thing to happen, to allow this media firestorm, to target him, was because he allowed himself to be held up. It was because people held him up, because people singled him out as this crazy, cool, virtuous example to everyone else, right? Because they did that to him, because he did that to himself, this became kind of a sensationalist target for coverage of many varied sorts.
That he had told over the years.
Doesn't mean it's great. And to clarify, I think it's perhaps, it's certainly true that there are some people who are disingenuous at best and probably downright malicious at worst with regards to their coverage of this thing. They want him to fail because he is black, because they are racist, whatever the crap. But I think a lot of it is literally he just did a bad thing, and people want to cover this bad thing that he did. In the same way that people were preying on his rise to fame, there are people preying on his downfall. I think that's kind of unavoidable to some extent. Now, I think most people would say, certainly, like, especially like newspapers and stuff like that, should have some sort of code of conduct where they don't go overboard, or they don't, participate in vitriol-filled rants or whatever the crap against this guy. Like, there should be some due professionalism with regards to those types of people covering this, and maybe that wasn't held to exactly. But it feels like there are people going the other way and saying that, oh no, we have to make rules that govern how and when and whatever the crap media companies can cover, or media outlets can cover stuff like this. And to me, that is like hamstringing news coverage in that regard is not a good idea. That's not the answer to this type of stuff. Like, someone threatens to kill themselves, and then you have to stop covering what they're doing? Like, what? No, that's not. I do not think that is a good thing. I do think that's a good way to try and fix this. It feels a highly exploitable type of thing. It's kind of I'd heard the term negotiating with terrorists in reference to that. Like, a person just, like, you can't cover a person or what they did or the bad stuff they did because they might do something bad. They might do something desperate. Like, what?
About his own accomplishments and the things he overcame.
I think I was watching Harmful Opinions, if you want to know. I think that's where I was hearing about that type of thing.
Well, those came
I didn't use the phrase in any case.
Under scrutiny when a lot of the news reports started coming out that people were, poking holes in some of his stories. Since a lot of that media scrutiny,
yeah, actually, for sure,
he has resigned, and then afterwards he ended up. Well,
you know what's also annoying me? The buzzword lynching. This was a lynching. The media lynched him or whatever the crap. Like, it's right up there with the word woke. I feel like it's just kind of works great in thumbnails, I suppose, or titles.
Say he took his own life because it hasn't been confirmed by police, but that's what they're seemingly hinting at. Since then, there's been a lot of questions about media coverage, and people have said, but preach, you guys, you have blood on your hands. I've heard a lot of different takes. I think his passing is always going to be a tragic thing, because at the end of the day, he leaves behind a family, leaves behind people. And I would argue that
that's not cool.
The reason why the Jason Arde story went mega viral.
I still don't know what exactly this picture is doing. Like, what is it trying to be here?
Is not because of plagiarism.
Was it
plagiarism is probably the more ethical thing that obviously flies in the face of somebody who holds a professional position at a prestigious place. But
see, that's the thing. I think if he had just been a professor, if he had only been a professor and not some sort of minor celebrity, wouldn't have been that big of a news. Would have been covered by a lot of people. In any case, it would have been maybe a niche matter of interest for people who were really into the whole DEI argument or stuff like that. But as far as, like, mainstream media news outlets covering it, like, no, probably not. It's a professor doing plagiarism at a college, but because he was in the public eye, because he did do all these interviews, go on all these podcasts, I assume, or stuff like that, because he was a celebrity on some level, that makes him unique. In the same way that Donald Trump having sex with some illicit mistress would be big news, front page news, and yet some, Joe Schmo from Idaho doing the same thing, like, who would care? Like, it wouldn't be news at all. it's because he's popular. It's because he's a celebrity. It's because all of this stuff that Jason Arde was singled out for all of this media coverage, good and bad. I'm thinking this. I'm kind of thinking in terms of like 3 stages. You have like the initial stage where people were preying on Jason Arde's rise to fame. A lot of people publicizing that, and preying on that type of rise to fame is a really crazy title, right? Youngest black professor, history of Cambridge, awesome, right? Look at him, look at the black professor. Well, you just look at him, right? After that, you have the second stage, which is people preying on his downfall. Youngest black professor at Cambridge outed for plagiarism, etc., etc., brings into question DEI, hiring practices, etc., etc. Really catchy title. A lot of clicks, I imagine. A lot of publicity, a lot of positive traffic to your site / channel / whatever the crap, right? And now you have the third stage, which is people going after the people in the second stage. Public lynching of youngest black professor from media, whatever the crap. Also, very catchy title. So it feels like I'm not for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like there were bad actors in every single stage of this thing they had going on. There were people who were cynically covering this stuff for their own advantage in every single point of the graph, kind of. I'm not sure which is more ignoble.
The salacious part is what really got everyone going.
Was it the
faking the hate crime?
The 600 miles in 600 days?
I think it was like the 30 marathons in 35 days, right?
I agree. Like, I don't think it would have been so much the plagiarism itself that interested so many people. It was kind of the plagiarism probably added to it, but it was kind of everything as a whole that was really making it a thing.
Like it was the I was on a television show that starred and aired before I was born and already had their.
Here's a question. There's a weird way of looking at this, because you would think, like, with regards to the lies he was telling, some of them seem like so absurdly obvious to debunk that why would you tell it as a lie? But maybe the very fact that I'm looking at it and thinking, well, this is so absurd, who would lie about that? Maybe that's kind of the reason why it works, at least for a little while. But because everyone's like, well, why would you lie about this thing? So no one checks it until someone does.
Participants, and I claimed I was part of that. Well, the one where he claimed he had testicular cancer, and then when the book came out, it was brain cancer that made him forget his thesis. The one where he claimed he was in a coma from a car accident in his teenage years, but there's no records of that, and he had shut-in syndrome. But don't forget, like, this man faked a hate crime. He claimed that somebody left a pig's head at his place.
And the last time that someone did something like that, he lost his job on a show.
Pretty sure that's Jesse Smollett.
He didn't hurt nobody, and he lied because he was low-key noble.
So that's like, I think people who were like, you need to preserve the lie, it always comes out. That's why I think, like, if lying worked, then it wouldn't be what we think of as lying. If degeneracy worked, it wouldn't be what we think of as degeneracy. If all of this stuff worked, if it was sustainable, then it wouldn't be disadvantageous, and we wouldn't view it the same way. In my mind, the lie always comes out. And also, I've mentioned this before, I think, the type of people who commit crimes are generally too stupid to get away with it. The type of people who lie, they're not just going to lie once. And they're not smart enough, or like maybe it's just impossible to keep lying, especially if you're a very stupid individual who's the type of person who keeps lying, and to maintain the facsimile of reality. It's unsustainable. That's what I reckon in that case.
Low-key noble.
He made a claim that a pig head was sent to his family home and masked men confronted him twice on campus with a knife. Okay? Family home and masked men confronted him twice on
I wasn't sure if he was holding up 3 fingers or 2.
On campus with a knife. Okay, demanding that he resign, plus a bullet and a banana and apparently some corrosive poison. There's a lot of stuff. But here, on the pig's head, Arde had told him...
I think this comes up, but this is the poor, helpless, put upon individual who happened to hire one of the best firms, the best law firms in Britain, who I believe have a reputation for, I don't know exactly what, but I don't think they exactly have the reputation for being very, I don't know exactly how to explain it. I think they have a reputation for ruthlessness with regards to this type of thing. He hired these guys to effectively oust an article that was coming out on him. That was the thing that happened. Again, this is the poor, beleaguered, helpless professor. Yeah.
Guardian and police had told the Guardian the police had chased it up and traced the pig to a South London butcher. So he told a newspaper that the police looked for this, and basically, if you're selling a kid, if there's a pig's head, someone sold it to them. So they went up to.
Did they trace the banana though?
To look for butchers. Okay.
Was it a fully loaded banana? Semi-autonomous. Sorry.
The Metropolitan.
It just sounds like a very strange collection of items. I'm assuming when they say bullet, they mean like cartridge, like the full cartridge. I'm assuming they didn't just take the bullet out of it.
Police told the Guardian categorically had no.
Maybe it was just a bullet. I don't know.
No investigation had taken place. So he lied to the Guardian, saying the police had investigated. The police are like, we never did. And the butcher they named as the person who sold the pig's head said they had no recollection of selling the pig. So both corroborating parties deny that this ever happened. So
it was a pig head.
There was no photographs of the bullet, no bullet photographs of the banana, no photographs of the corrosive substance or the pig's head. The only people who saw any items were close family, and he could produce no messages from the time discussing them with anyone, including the police. So when he tells his story post hoc, right, and he says, oh, I had this harassment and there was a pig's head, he never documented anything. I'm asking you guys, I want y'all to be real with me for 2 seconds, okay? Somebody leaves a pig's head. You get threatened by people. You have people pulling you at knife point. There's not a picture. There's not a text message ever. There's nothing that corroborates the fact that you told anyone this. Come on.
I feel like especially these days, like that would be kind of big news, would it not? And this guy claims to be like a kind of activist advocate sort of person. Would he not want publicity for that type of thing? I don't know. It all smacks of disingenuousness or subterfuge.
The man faked a hate crime. So when people say, oh, there's no reason, no, there's salacious details in this that jump out to you. And that's why this story went mega viral.
Yep. True.
Yes, people want to say it's, oh, because he's black. It was because he was black to some folks. Listen, there's no doubt that there's been coverage of this that's been from racist people. There's no doubt that some people have used this for ideological reasons. That is true. But multiple people can confuse or critique the same story from different angles. We might do it for...
Yeah, I think it started out like perhaps obviously the article was ousted. I think the race realist guy, whatever the crap, came in after that. But a lot of people have came in since that and done, I'm assuming, independent research and or assessing all of these facts that have come out. And they're kind of coming to a lot of the same conclusions, that this guy was not... He was sometimes better than truthful with regards to the stuff he was saying and the claims he was making. That would be putting it nicely. Pathological liar, like they said, might be closer to the truth.
From the more salacious angle, which is when you go watch your video, that's what we covered most of it, because some of the stories were absurd. And then other people will be like, DI, 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 even though in reality, this is not looking like a DI hire. Man, it was.
See, I guess here's a question. Again, I think I had mentioned, I did not read the thesis. I don't know what the quality of it was. Obviously, they had said some of it was incorrectly cited. But independent of that, if they had looked into this guy's past and some of the stuff he was saying with a little bit more scrutiny, like, would they have not have found that some of this stuff just did not add up? Would they not have found that there were issues? And I'm not sure, like, if that would have played into whether or not they'd be willing to hire him. It feels like the integrity of the individual involved is not mutually exclusive with their ability to perform academically, especially as a professor, if this person is trying to teach people at a college. Like, it's not unimportant.
Academically inclined. He did do the labor. He did write the thesis. He did do the work.
You don't like to use the word DEI?
I just think people use it
It's overused.
very quickly whenever there's a minority involved, not recognized.
And again, like, this is kind of what instigated. my epiphany. Like I do kind of feel like maybe I myself sometimes, yeah.
Recognizing like how do you prove that? You're just throwing out the
We'll see. I'll try to be more mindful of that in future, just to make sure.
accusation without being certain of that. What isn't in doubt, though, however, is that the man did steal and lift lines.
Sure.
And what isn't in doubt is that they had continuously found that. So that's where I want to kind of go with to begin. And what fascinated me is that people said, yes, he did lie. He did lie. So what?
I think the media killed Jason Arde. At least it was a big factor in his death. It's fine to be angry that Arde got to where he was.
Do the labor. He did write the thesis. He did do the DI. That's what we covered most of it because some of the stories were absurd. And then other people will be like DI. Even though in reality, this is not looking like a DI hire. Man was academically inclined. He did do the labor. He did write the thesis. He did do the work.
You don't like to use the word DEI?
I just think people use it very quickly whenever there's a minority involved, not recognizing like how do you prove that? You're just throwing.
See, like this has kind of triggered a mildly self-aware epiphany in me, because I tend to look at people who use the term oh goodness, I'll get it, systemic racism. I tend to look down on those people because it is kind of this nebulous, unfalsifiable, oh, my life is just kind of shit, and it's a way of explaining why it's not shit because of what have I done. I'm not getting the job, I'm getting fired, I'm people don't like me, whatever the crap, and it's not because of anything I'm doing. You can just pass the buck to this kind of vague, unfalsifiable force of nature that people just don't like you, people just don't want to hire you, people just want to not let you into whatever the crap because systemic racism. Life is harder for you because of systemic racism. The reason I'm not succeeding, systemic racism. Not because I suck, not because I'm lazy. Systemic racism. It's this type of... And I was feeling a little bit borderline hypocritical because I feel like maybe DEI is a little bit the same type of thing. I'm not for sure about this. I'm going to have to think about it. But I was feeling a little bit convicted that maybe I too often jump to DEI, and it's not exactly... It might be something in a similar vein, this type of nebulous thing that can't really sometimes be nailed down. I'll bear it in mind in any case.
Now there's accusation without being certain of that. What isn't in doubt, though, however, is that the man did steal and lift lines.
Sure.
And what isn't in doubt is that they had continuously found that. So that's where I want to kind of go with to begin. And what fascinated me is that people said, yes, he did lie. He did lie. So what?
I think the media killed Jason Arde. At least it was a big factor in his death. It's fine to be angry that Arde got to where he was from the lies of plagiarism. He did lie and plagiarize, but he also faced a witch hunt.
British media.
That's the question. I don't know exactly how that works. Like, would you say, well, this person did rape someone, but they did also face a witch hunt? If he lied and plagiarized and whatever, like, can you really call it a witch hunt at that point? Or would you really call it a witch hunt?
You are responsible for this. You see all the blogs.
I can remember first hearing about Jason Arde several years ago. I didn't really look into him massively, but I knew he had this kind of very compelling, quite amazing, fantastical story. Obviously, now it turns out it was, a bit too fantastical, right? That there are some...
Seems to be, yes.
Glaring inconsistencies, and I think that Guardian piece on Monday was the thing that finally, when I locked in and read that, I was like, okay, there's actually lots of things here that do not make sense.
So I told you a week ago last Friday that I felt personally let down by Jason Arde because I had spent an hour in his company. I'd done a long interview with him on my Full Disclosure series, and I had been utterly beguiled by him and by his story.
Told a series of lies about his life. And his book's out.
He's not the first to have plagiarised. He's not the first to have lied. He's not...
Again, just like the analogy with Trump. Yes, if he had been just a regular, professor, no one would have cared. No one would have noticed. If it was just plagiarism, a lot of less people would probably care or notice. But he was held up, and it wasn't just the plagiarism. It was a lot of other stuff.
The first
That's not a good
exaggerated.
No, you can't blame the media for doing their job. But in the same way, people do make mistakes. Yes, I'm not downplaying the mistake that he made. You know, plagiarism is a really serious thing, obviously. But
now, don't you dare get my words misconstrued. I'm going to speak very slowly for this point.
It feels like quite often people have a tendency to, I don't know, this is not the guy. If you want to make a martyr out of someone, this is not the guy. Like, it's not the person to hold up as the emblematic of a larger issue, in my humble estimation. It's not cool it's not like the suicide, very unfortunate. But yeah.
Do not agree with anybody lying on their CV or anyone embellishing the truth in any respect. I don't agree with that. I can understand as to why that is wrong, okay? Let's not act as if elected officials, people who are technically...
Like, genuinely, that's been most of the coverage. Yeah. Most of the coverage has been, he did do this, he did do that, he did do something wrong, he did do something wrong. But the media coverage is unfair. That's been most of it. So people are not even really contesting anymore.
Well, I think most people, I think it was perhaps... One could argue it was perhaps approached with a degree of zeal on the part of some people. Again, catchy headline. Young black professor outed as plagiarist. Crazy lies about his whatever brings into question DEI. That's a very catchy title. A lot of clicks, a lot of engagement. Yeah, people are going to jump on that. And probably some of them are disingenuous or malicious or whatever the crap. So maybe it was overdone or done in a too eager fashion.
That the man lied extensively.
There's 249 articles that was made about this dude. Is that the reason, or was it bullying? Were the media a bit too hard on him? I've seen a lot of commentary. Oh, well, he didn't hurt anybody. He didn't. I don't think you guys realize how big of a deal it is to get that far and scam that many people and get to that point without having the credentials, the proper credentials. I don't think you understand how it crashes the economy and the veracity of a college to have someone that is not at all qualified being in that position. Hey, we have to ask ourselves some questions about everything that happened.
Adding on to what he's saying, I'm going to say this again, he was kind of called out. He was made unique. And when you, in theory, have this type of quote-unquote benchmark case, I've remarked upon the fact that they're not really a lot of... They're creating glass ceilings to break, right? This isn't the first guy in baseball. This isn't the first of... he was the first youngest black professor, right? He's the youngest black professor to date to hold that position in Cambridge. But they made him a benchmark case on some level, and a benchmark case that ostensibly was a plagiarist and or a shyster of sorts. That's significant. It's significant, to be fair. It perhaps reflects badly on the black community because of that. The fact that they made him this type of benchmark case. If they hadn't done that, well, I guess, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we all have a Merry Christmas.
And with the DEI and stuff, it is what happened.
Sorry, I did not think we would disagree this much, but keep going.
I think it opens a conversation. There's something to be said about that. There was a scam that was done by this dude, and there was also scrutiny, and there was also people that was preying on this dude. I think these two things are possible, but really two different conversations. I think the other people that have been doing bad stuff in his position haven't been under a lot of scrutiny. That I can agree with that. I think there was...
Yeah. I would agree, but again, they are profoundly unremarkable individuals. He is remarkable. People made him remarkable. because they held him up, because they made him this singular case, because they pointed it out, that they belabored it. They beat the dead horse, and then they buried it, and then they dug it back up and beat it again. Like, I feel like some of it's on Jason because he allowed that to happen. He probably kind of accepted all these interviews, etc., and he probably leaned into it a little bit. And also some of it is on the people who made him famous. They set him up for this.
Other coworkers that he had that had allegations that got swept away. That should be have more scrutiny. I don't want to remove out of what happened to this dude. The other ones that didn't have enough scrutiny should have a little bit more. Or he did something bad and it was unfair to him that we have to disregard everything that happened there. It's two different conversations. Obtaining a PhD when you're not, or saying that you're a PhD when you're not.
Well, he is a PhD. You can't say that. He has a PhD, and it is valid.
Oh, he's not Dr. Bryant.
So I've heard something about this. I'm not sure if it was regard to Cambridge or the place where he got his PhD. I had thought I had seen something where they were now reassessing some of that stuff. So I don't know what all that's going on there, but
it's just
he's not Dr. Bryant. Okay, so just to clear up some things, his education is valid. Should he have been hired at Cambridge? Based off his academic record, yes, but
maybe off his academic record alone, I don't know. Again, didn't read his thesis, but it feels like never mind. I already went to that.
There's questions about his many lies about his own personal life, and then the plagiarism aspect of things. But he has a valid education. It's not like he made up a thesis or something. No, The argument is that he plagiarized lines.
Can I just say, he made up a thesis?
No, he didn't make up a thesis. You gotta be careful.
There was some. Okay, yeah, no, because there's a lot of things that are said out there. So let's just.
But that was never said. It was never said that he made up a thesis. Making up a thesis is crazy. Like what you're saying right there.
He didn't fabricate the entire thesis. He did plagiarize some lines inside of the thesis.
Like he fabricated his entire, basically PhD work, which is like something you spend years doing. That's not what happened.
I've seen that. So what was done was that there were some things that he did that was plagiarized, some parts that were plagiarized.
The plagiarism aspect is what some people are contesting. They're saying that the university that he went to, which is like LMGU, which it's an acronym for one of the universities, where he did his PhD. He had a board look it over. And then there was a couple lines from there that were allegedly plagiarized from somebody else, essentially not cited properly, which is a big deal. But they said that was within the bounds, and that's when they cleared the investigation, what happened subsequently, however, and the reason why this became another story is that others began doing independent analysis of the thesis, because thesis is public record. And then they found more lines than what the original body had looked over. So what happens is that they looked at it and they said, the amount...
And it seems like there's kind of an issue where it's one of those things where people are like, we have investigated ourselves and found a wrongdoing. When a person gives someone a PhD, I'm going to assume they're kind of actively incentivized to protect the reputation of their own, system of validation and or checks and balances. They're incentivized to protect their own testing methodology because their reputation is at stake. So they don't want to find someone guilty of plagiarizing their PhD because that reflects badly on their reputation as well. In the same way with Cambridge, they brought him in as a professor, defined him unworthy of being a professor, to oust him from this, especially as such a public figure, such a celebrated individual, defined him after they already brought him in as being this unworthy figure. Like that reflects on their admission methods for professors or stuff like that. So it's kind of, it's one of those things where, like, I think we tend to, some people at the very least tend to think of scientists as veritable scientists, professors, intellectuals as being a veritable higher order of humanity, but still humanity, still humans at the base of it all.
Of lines that were not cited and how much was quote unquote plagiarized was within the bounds of what's a reasonable error and not malicious. That was their viewing of the whole situation. The issue comes when other people do independent reviews, they find a lot more lines. There's a misconception. People say, oh, all of this started with this racist right-winger, Confast, who's a race realist. Nobody.
Coughness.
He's down that dude's a racist. That's a fact of thing. But it did not start with him. It started with a news.
Sorry, it's not funny, but there's a meritocracy. Yeah, never mind.
That dude's a racist. That's a fact of thing.
No,
But
he does come off as a little bit. I guess race realist doesn't necessarily mean malevolent against people of different races, but it would seem to be kind of backwards thinking a little bit. Yeah, I think there are very few people who would contest that there aren't like racial tendencies as far as like morphology or whatever the case, but
did not start with him. It started with a news report that was said to be published by a news organization. Before they could publish it, they sent lawyers threatening to sue them into the ground if they released this paper, which then silenced the story. This is before any of this blow up happened. So when that happens,
again, poor beleaguered black professor hires one of the best firms in England to oust an article on him. Media suppression, yes, it's the tool of the
subsequently
tool of the poor and beleaguered.
Nathan Confast, the racist, then releases it afterwards after doing his own independent expose. But this did not start with that. There was other researchers and other groups who did. And then since then, other groups have actually covered this. So I'm going to go through a couple of them just to be clear. So Jack Grove from the Times Higher Education independently analyzed the thesis before Confast. He had a 63-page dossier in September 2025, and that was the one that was suppressed. Then the Telegraph commissioned a statistical analysis, 188 near identical sentences. The Times had a separate analysis. Then David said,
So 188, and that sounds like a lot, but I don't know how long the thesis would actually be. So it's maybe a question of proportionally how much is this subset of plagiarized or incorrectly cited work. Like a bit.
Who's a biochemist at Purdue, reviewed the dossier, said there's no question of extensive plagiarism. And then we have Dave Harris from Open University, Robert Dingwall, Nottingham, independently examined the material and called for an external investigation, found textual overlap, indications of serious plagiarism. And basically there's a bunch of other people since then who have looked at it. You guys can go look up the thesis yourself. People have ran it through all kinds of software. There's no doubt that he lifted lines. The question is, was it to the point that it was malicious or really bad? And the original body had said no, 188 lines, 150, that's a lot to be taken from other folks. And most would argue if you had done that, that's not within the rounds of what's reasonably expected for mistakes. People claiming that there's no evidence and all this other stuff, don't forget the person or the group or the body that cleared him is also the one that has the most incentive to do so. They only reopened the investigations to Jason after more lines were found through independent investigations.
Mm-hmm.
But
the
scrutiny. Yeah, not only that, they opened 2 investigations.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. But I thought I had seen something where they had kind of, maybe they were, I don't know. Go do your own research.
We'll put one into his academic stuff, but also into his achievements.
Yeah,
the reason why is because he claimed to achieve so many different things, and now a lot of people are putting those into question because it looks like some of that isn't true. And also, just to be clear, it's not just about his thesis. I think he released a study in 2019. Yes, so he wrote a journal article that had to be amended, right? Where he had lifted lines from somewhere else.
All right, the publication Jason Harding 2019 has been amended to increase the clarity of citation sources within the text. The statement that the research had been adapted from Memon Bleu 2016 appeared in section 4, but inadvertently omitted overlap between the 2 publications in prior sections. The author has revised text to address this so that it's clear where ideas were adapted from past research. Consequently, the number of times Memon has been referenced has been increased.
And the claims of an issue with that article were severe enough that the editor and the author themselves actually made substantial changes. There is quite a lot in regards to his academic background where he's made some substantial mistakes. Now, would those alone warrant all the media scrutiny that he received? No. But I don't think that most of the media scrutiny, if you look up all the articles, are just centered around his plagiarism. I don't want to even make this like a DI thing, because there's actually a story of another professor who went to the exact same university, the exact same college at Cambridge, and he was found guilty of plagiarism, Dr. William O'Reilly. In fact, he was found guilty of plagiarism, this white professor was, of a much worse form of plagiarism. More than 12 pages of an article published under O'Reilly's name had been lifted almost word for word from 2 essays by one of his students. You can't even argue this one because, one, it was one of his students. 2, he had actually complimented this student on much of her work, showing glowing reviews. And then 3, it was word for word theft, okay? This guy is still employed at Cambridge. This man is as white as snow, okay? He lies.
I have to work on my gasping.
So much his nose
My shocked gasp.
was running away from his mouth.
Which?
This is from 2023. The Financial Times initially reported that the complaint of plagiarism had been upheld by the university tribunal, but that the professor would keep his job. So he was found guilty of this.
So it does feel like their general knee-jerk response is to always support or like to back the professor. I would tend to think that would be the way it would unfold, generally speaking, because it's one of those, again, it kind of reflects on them. If they hired this guy and he turns out to be a bad dude, like, yeah.
He'd keep his job. Following a 2-year investigation, the tribunal ruled that the offense wasn't the product of negligent acts but was not deliberate. So they're saying it was
What the heck? Not deliberate. Like, maybe he meant to cite it or something. Like, 12 pages cannot be not deliberate.
Negligence, and it was not deliberate.
That's what I'm saying. It's two different things where, okay, yeah, 249 articles is a bit much. My problem is that you didn't do enough articles on this dude.
The reason why this is relevant to me is that it goes to show that when it comes to plagiarism, the bodies can find that there's actual plagiarism. They can find, but they won't call it plagiarism. They will say this was a mistake, right? Whether it's the white guy or Jason Arde, both of these bodies ended up finding that these guys had made a mistake. So whether it's lifting 12 pages, stealing 188 lines, and not citing them properly, they're going to make the allegation that this is a mistake, not actual plagiarism or something. That's their standard, okay? Now, we can talk about the differences between the two media coverage, right? This had coverage in 2023, but obviously not to the same degree. And I would argue that the reason why the Jason Arde story went mega viral. Now let's go to the media scrutiny. I think his passing is always going to be a tragic thing because at the end of the day, he leaves behind a family, leaves behind people, and that's a real thing. And people have messaged me incessantly being like, you did this, you guys are part of the reason. You know, I sat with that question. Because I think it's good when people disagree with you vehemently to think about that. Okay, so you guys would prefer we don't cover.
Why?
Because in us covering it, we're adding to the wave, and that leads to his untimely demise. So all the criticism
No, just no.
I'm receiving right now, if I take my own life, are you responsible?
Yeah, it feels kind of weirdly like counterintuitive. It's kind of strange the way that works because you tend to choose like things that you choose are valuable to. It's kind of like you're choosing the center of your universe, the thing around which all things orbit, right? So you choose something like freedom as a virtue. Freedom is a good virtue. We want to protect freedom, but we effectively penalize people who try to take away other people's freedom via killing them or enslaving them or stuff like that. So freedom for everyone except for those who want to take away other people's freedom, right? Which feels a little bit like some sort of paradox. I don't think it really is, but like, you know, in this case, there's a little bit of a contradiction, well, an apparent contradiction. There's kind of that same thing where it's like, okay, so you're telling us we can't cover this stuff. Yeah, forget it. Forget it. I'll cut that out.
You guys leave a comment under a video and say something mean, or you say you're critical of anything, are you guys contributing to someone's self-deletion? Is any kind of media response to any story contributing to the self-harm that the person chooses to do?
Well, the argument would maybe be, Steelman in their side of this, that if you can see that there is a superabundance of coverage with regards to blank subject, that there's some sort of pile-on going on, maybe it behooves people to be a little bit more fair and even-handed, or to represent for the defense, at least if there's any defense to be made, to see where the majority of people are headed with regards to their coverage, and to maybe present more balanced, or like just to balance out all the stuff that's happening. I guess I don't know, maybe that would be the idea, but again, like the notion of just not covering bad stuff that's happening, and sometimes there is no defense. Sometimes there literally is no. Like, I don't know.
After
I think that's kind of a hard road to hoe, to be like, you shouldn't be covering this objectively bad stuff that's happening because blank person might kill themselves. And it feels like it's kind of exploitable as a idea.
And again, this is not me doing a complete dismiss.
What the shit? Why does this... This thing where my earbuds...
Of how media craze on a story can affect someone's mental health. I'm asking about culpability. How culpable are you?
There we go. There we go. I think we're good.
After the fact. And again, this is not me doing a complete dismissal of how media craze on a story can affect someone's mental health. I'm asking about culpability. How culpable are you, or is anyone with a platform, anyone doing news reports, how culpable are they for the self-harm? I'm asking the question. You can't call...
Like, obviously, like, on principle, you would say that people with more power are more responsible for how they wield that power, right? On principle. But in this case, I don't think it's a case of, oh, so-and-so killed himself, therefore you caused it because you covered the objectively bad thing that he did. Yeah.
A witch hunt. He did lie.
It's... I don't know if it's exactly misrepresenting like the proactive nature of what's going on, but it's like saying, oh, government kills a guy because he raped, a whole bunch of people, killed a whole bunch of people. Why did the government do that? The government's responsible for his death. Well, technically, yes, the government killed him, but he also kind of preempted that. He's the one who initiated the series of events by killing people and or raping people, right? So, guy does bad thing. People report on bad thing. Guy kills himself. People report on objectively bad thing that he did.
Did steal lines. That's not a witch hunt.
They're the ones responsible. That doesn't feel exactly right to me.
He is guilty of what he had done. So I'm asking the question, how much can we talk about? And also, it's interesting because people love the media. They treat it like it's a tap. They use it when it's convenient. So when they're thirsty, right? They think they can just turn on the media and go for it. So when he would do media appearances, when he would do television appearances, when he's selling a book where he got a book deal apparently for $1 million+ about his life, he can use the media to enrich himself. He can use the media to propagate his ideas. He can use the media to do social commentary. That's fair game. He's allowed.
Yeah, man, brother.
To use the media as he pleases. But when the media in return comments on the veracity of some of his claims, then it's too far. Then it's contributing to harm. Then it's harassment. I think when a public figure, and he was a public figure, interacts with all these different platforms for their own enrichment, you also invite the criticism that comes with it. Does that mean that you deserve a racist hate mob? No, it doesn't mean that. I just think sometimes people see a tragic situation and they need to find an easy through line to what caused it. His lies, all the use of the media that he did in order to enrich himself, that's not part of the story. The story is the media was unfair and they harassed him to his death, and now I have someone I can blame. If you guys...
All right, yeah, that's probably a pretty good place to stop. You can look at the rest if you want. You may watch too much, but... Anyways, yeah, Avon preached blood is on your hands, and the previous one was total fraud. Gonna play a little bit of Strange Brigade. Unfortunately, I got started late, getting finished late, so yeah, I'll do a shorter one today. All right. Let's boogie. Deuce. There we go. Oh, Britannia. Britannia rules the waves.
Enjoy your bicky break. Now back into the adventure of the Strange Brigade.
Wait a second. Alright. Ooh, nice.
Useful. Could definitely use this.
Dynamite. Alright.
That confounded the blighters.
Scheiße.
A champion of the Demon Queen. There must be something here she doesn't want our heroes to find.
Kopesh, champion of Seteke. Okay, what am I missing here? Okay.
The old straight smackdown shuffle. Good work.
Somehow. Okay. Am I supposed to get him to run into something? Or what?
By Jove, they've a full end.
Okay.
In need of a little pick-me-up, eh?
Wait, am I supposed to be hitting that thing?
Strange Brigade? Fallen in battle? No, surely.
So I think I'm supposed to maybe use those explosives.
Returning to the adventure once more, the Strange Brigade prepare to take the battle to their enemy.
This'll come in handy.
I'm gonna save that until after I get down a bit, maybe.
Dynamite out! Fire Keep rolling, Brigade, what? Oh, amulets charged! Come on in, spooky soul.
Huzzah! I did it!
One beast bested, the way ahead is clear. Our heroes enter the stone church, but how will they puzzle their way to the top?
Where's the cat? Hello.
Ha ha ha! 9 lives won't save that beast.
Scheiße. Alright, so I think that's a thing. Right? Am I supposed to be charging something somewhere?
Tasty magic healing drink. Do your stuff.
That's nice. Oh, here we go. Nice. So, yet. There we go.
Oh, something shiny. Looks rather important. Best stand on it.
You know they just killed him, right? Then created him again somewhere else. Creepy.
Good show so far, Brigade. Now to get to the roof and destroy any soul cages there.
The end is near, and so our heroes face the final challenge. I knew those blasted cats were hiding something.
Definitely having this. Let's see what this does.
Oh, hold on. There's one, right? One of them. So I'm assuming this is going right to left, correct? Legs, blowfish, legs, blowfish. And there's not one here. Let's see. Nope. Also nope.
Riveting reading. Oh,
Frightening
huzzah,
dreams.
what a treat.
Frightening dreams last night. Frightening dreams at night now. Of them. They are coming to stop her, to kill her. Impossible. She is a goddess. She cannot die. So why am I so afraid of them? So is there something? In theory, if I have two of the combos, you could probably figure the others out if I have three options, maybe? I just prefer not to. There's a chance I might make a mistake. There's not one there either. Scheiße. Yeah, legs, blowfish. Legs, blowfish.
Looks like it's the return of the Brigade's deadliest foe. Puzzles.
Shit. So is there one in between that I'm missing? Let's see the other one. Or am I looking at the same one? I'm looking at the same thing, I think. Yeah. Doesn't make sense. Whatever wise, but that's the first one, I think. And the others must be somewhere, I take it. There. There. And seemingly not there. There. I don't know, maybe I'm just missing this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I care enough to keep looking. I'll see how far I want to get to this next area. See where it puts me.
Oh, pay review. Pay review.
So you're the meddling mortals who have been destroying my soul cages. My guardian beast should make quick work of you.
Oh, look who has a flair for the theatrical, bloody Jobsworth. Splendid work, and richly deserved.
Blowing this guy up or something?
Everything's coming up front.
Wait a second.
Ancient potions, a medical marvel for the ages.
Missed something.
Throwing dynamite. Look sharp.
Troops here keep up the pressure. Wonderful wallop there. Isn't she charming? Best deal with her right quick, Strange Brigade.
Huzzah!
Take a bow, Brigade. Another perilous mission magnificently accomplished.
Back to the dirigible.
Time to count out the gold, Strange Brigade. Unless my arithmetic is off, you can afford a new weapon. Oh, what fun!
I'm good on that for now. I don't know if I really want these. I think I'm good. I'll start this one.
We join the Strange Brigade. Hard at work, no doubt.
So, I said to him, well, Your Grace, that's how it's done in Manchester.
If I could interrupt the merriment.
Perhaps you had to be there.
You're approaching the next location, where we believe a soul cage to be hidden. I must admit, I'm troubled by your most recent encounter.
Oh dear.
What? What that damnable witch thing knows about us now?
Quite. Please take care, all of you. If Soteki decides you're a danger to her, she won't hesitate to try and destroy you.
No. I'm sure she might try to destroy you either way. But particularly, if she decides you're a threat to her. Cursed village.
A remote mountain village. Reports of sinister sorcery. Sounds like a classic adventure for the Strange Brigade.
Alright. I think that's all for now. You guys have a lovely weekend, and thanks for watching. Better turn that part off.